भूर्भुवस्सुवः तत्सवितुर्वरेण्यं भर्गो देवस्य धीमहि धियो यो न प्रचोदयात्। ॐ भूर्भुवस्सुवः तत्सवितुर्वरेण्यं भर्गो देवस्य धीमहि धियो यो न प्रचोदयात्। ॐ भूर्भुवस्सुवः तत्सवितुर्वरेण्यं भर्गो देवस्य धीमहि धियो यो न प्रचोदयात्। अशेम बहु वहिष्ठेमस्ति उष्टास्ति उष्टामाय यदशाय वहिष्ठाय शेम। श्मा इस्राएल Adonai Eloheinu Adonai Echad। Namo tassa bhagavato arahato samma sambuddhassa। Buddham sharanam gacchami Dhammam sharanam gacchami Sangham sharanam gacchami। Our Father, who art in heaven, hallowed be thy name. Thy kingdom come, thy will be done, on earth as it is in heaven. Give us this day our daily bread, and forgive us our trespasses, as we forgive those who trespass against us. And lead us not into temptation, but deliver us from evil. For thine is the kingdom, and the power, and the glory, forever and ever. Amen. Bismillah ar-Rahman ar-Rahim. Bismillah ar-Rahman ar-Rahim. Bismillah ar-Rahman ar-Rahim. La ilaha illallah, Allah, Allah. La ilaha illallah, Allah, Allah. La ilaha illallah, Allah, Allah. Om Sai vidmahe Satyadevaya dhimahi Tanna sarva prachodayat। Om Sai vidmahe Satyadevaya dhimahi Tanna sarva prachodayat। Om Sai vidmahe Satyadevaya dhimahi Tanna sarva prachodayat। Om Shanti Shanti Shanti।
Jai Sai Ram, everyone. Offering our most loving salutations at the feet of our beloved Lord, Bhagavan Sri Satya Sai Baba. Welcome to Region 2 SAIMA series, where we have discussed in the past and will be continuing the discussions with devotees from the early days. Today, we are blessed to have guests whose parents and grandparents have been ardent devotees of Swami, and their third generation being born into Swami's fold. Before I introduce them, my name is Perva Swaminathan, and I will be moderating today. If you have any questions, please send me your questions and I will be able to ask them. Please send them questions through the chat. Now, for our very special guests, we are very excited to introduce you to Sisters Rajani Kanukollu and Sister Sai Lakshmi Rao. Sister Rajani was born in New Delhi, India, and is a third-generation ardent Satya Sai devotee. She feels humbled to have served Swami as SSC coordinator in the past at the Satya Sai Center of Homedale in New Jersey for many years. As a token of gratitude to our Swami, she seeks and is involved in several service opportunities to spread his message of love in her own humble way. Her happiest time, she says, is her many hours of mentoring at work and also in the community. She works in information technology in the telecommunication industry as a senior program portfolio manager. She resides in New Jersey with her husband, Raja. Sairam, Sister Rajani, welcome.
Sairam, Sister.
Sairam.
I humbly offer our collective pranams at Swami's divine lotus feet. Sairam to you, Sister Prabha. Sairam to you, Sister Sai Lakshmi. Thank you for inviting me to this session of SAIMA. Sairam to all the brothers and sisters.
Thank you, Rajani. Wonderful to have you here. Now to introduce you to Sister Sai Lakshmi Rao. Sister Sai Lakshmi was born in Chennai in a family that has been associated with Swami for several decades. Swami used to stay with her grandparents prior to the construction of Sundaram in Chennai. Some of her early memories are going on car rides, sharing meals, and playing hide and seek with Swami. She has been blessed by Swami at all her milestones, starting with her naming ceremony. Sai Lakshmi actively participates in leadership and service activities at the Jersey City Sai Center. Professionally, Sai Lakshmi is the executive director for North Bergen Free Public Library in New Jersey. Jai Sairam, Sister Sai Lakshmi, welcome. Sairam, Sai Lakshmi, welcome. You're on mute. Yeah, perfect. So thank you both, Sister Rajani and Sai Lakshmi, for being here. We are really excited that we are able to have this satsang today. And I know, Sister, both of you are actually third generation, so we have a lot to catch up with what happened with your parents and your grandparents. So maybe we can start with that. Sister Rajani, you are so blessed to be born into devotion to Swami. Your maternal grandparents were the first devotees in your family, and thereafter your parents and your extended family and you yourself. Can you bring us into the picture of how your grandparents became Swami, came into Swami's fold?
I'm grateful to be born into devotion to Swami. I marvel at people who go seeking and find Swami. For me, it was handed to me on a platter, I should say. Humbly blessed. My maternal grandparents were very pious and spiritual, and they did a lot of pilgrimages. And as with many South Indians those days, my grandfather sought work in North India, and he came to New Delhi, and he worked in the Central Banking Inquiry Commission. It meant a lot of travel, and which was something he welcomed. And when he was not traveling for work, my grandmother and he would go on pilgrimages to many states, many places to see temples and other spots. In such a trip around 1938, they were in the area of Kadiri to see some temples and heard about Swami from a relative who was posted there in the railways. And they went to what is now known as the old Mandiram. It was barren land, nothing, just dry and barren. In a corner, they had a place where they would cook. People came and went. Collectively, there were about 20 people, sometimes 50. It was a shanty with thatched roof, one kind of a building where people would go when it was too hot. and the rest of the time they were outside. And there was another smaller shanty with a thatched roof at the back, which was where Swami would go in and out. Very informal relationship. So when they went there and arrived, Swami walked up to them, spoke very jokingly. You have to remember, it was a very young Swami, energetic, full of life, magnetic. He just won their hearts. And the divine aspect of him was so evident because he started talking Vedanta. He would sit on a stone and just talk about the scriptures and just continued. For someone so young, it was so impressive, and my grandparents were drawn to him. So on that, and then he would say, get ready in the evening, and in the evening they would all go to the Chitravati river, and on the banks he would just, he would not pick a spot. And later we have heard of so many doubting Thomases questioning what he pulled out of the sand. He would just say, pick a spot, and then they would just sit and he would pull out things from the sand or materialize something, and just kept everybody engaged. Like this, they made many trips, but what was significant in this trip was, there were two things. One was that my uncle, they were planning to do his thread ceremony, so he had let his hair grow. So Swami went to him and said, hey, cut your hair. So seeing how my grandparents were constantly prostrating, touching his feet, he also touched Swami's feet. And he thought it would be the right thing to ask Swami to, initiate it by cutting a lock. He was reprimanded by my grandfather for being so bold. But Swami lightened the mood by saying, I'm Baba, I'm not a barber. So it was that humorous aspect is also how he drew everyone. And my uncle, of course, immediately felt closer to him. The other incident that strikes out on this visit of theirs, the first visit, was Swami materialized a ring from my grandfather. It's a ring I have seen. It's a 1 centimeter jade ring. And in that, there's a almost like marble. It's a white stone image of Shirdi Sai Baba. It's a beautiful ring. So my grandfather was very perplexed, and he looked at the ring and didn't say anything. So Swami said, oh, you're wondering what that is? That is Shirdi Sai Baba, my previous Rupam. Rupam, as you know, is the form. That brought two things to clear to my grandfather, because two things had happened previously. One was in 1937, he had read a book on Shirdi Sai Baba, and he was drawn to him, and that book didn't have a picture or anything. There was a sketch of Shirdi Sai Baba, and he loved the teachings of Shirdi Sai Baba. So here there was a connection that Swami made. And another thing was, in those days when the British were ruling India, they had two capitals. Simla was their summer capital. Simla is a hill station further north from New Delhi. And New Delhi was the winter capital. So accordingly, those who had to travel with them back and forth, the children's education, schooling was also arranged for 6 months in Delhi and 6 months in Simla. There, an old gentleman, an old man would come begging for alms. And begging for alms was very customary those days. Even today in India, people go begging for alms, and the householder would give them some grains and something in kind, and they would sustain themselves on that. So he would come regularly, this old man. And one day he gave my grandmother a small black and white picture of an old sage. She just took it and put it in her altar with all the other pictures of gods and idols that she had, and didn't think about it. And now the link and the connection to that picture and the ring, now they could see what form that Swami was talking about. So that's why when he said, I came to you in that form first, my previous form. Isn't that how I came to you? So that connection made sense to them then.
Wonderful. Thank you. Thank you for sharing. You said you had two, right? two stories.
The ring and the connection through the book.
Yes, yes, that's right. That's right. And through Shruti Sai Baba too. And moving on to Sai Lakshmi, you have very similar amazing stories too. So how did your grandparents' connection to Swami begin, and what happened there?
I too am very humbly grateful of being born and raised in a Sai family, and I owe that to my grandparents and my parents. My grandparents connected with Swami in the early 1940s. Their names were Mr. and Mrs. Hanumantarao. Swami was a carefree child in their home. He used to stay at the house before Sundaram, like Prabha had said earlier, and Swami would stay there for weeks together sometimes, and sometimes was in the house even in their absence, and would write to them and saying, "Parvatama, I just woke up in the morning. I haven't brushed my teeth yet, but I just wanted to write to you. Or Parvatama, I just washed my face, and so-and-so made idli for me. The chutney was very good." And so on. So he was a carefree child. He walking and running around the house saying, "Parvatama, where are you? Parvatama, ekkadunavu?" Asking where she was and what she was up to and all of that. While he was a carefree child, he was also that force in the house. He commanded all the forces at his free will. And it was, my grandparents were just mesmerized with his presence in the house. One such incident was on Krishna Jayanti, birthday of Lord Krishna. Swami is walking across the rooms in the house, and he suddenly calls to my grandmother and says, "Parvatama, there are angels up there and they want to give us some sweets." And she is lost, right? And so she's looking around, and all of a sudden Swami raises his arms and down comes a bowl of warm sweets from all over India. And then at the same time, Swami says, "Parvatama, can you give me an apron?" So he gets an apron, and then he wears the apron and he's singing a lullaby. And after he's done, he opens his apron a little bit, and there comes the sandalwood idol of Lord Krishna. So this is all in the presence at their home. They had a child, a son who was, who they came into Swami's life when their son was about 4 years old. He had polio. Swami used to refer to him as my boy. His name was Ishwara Prasad Dattatreya. Swami would call him Shiva, always referred to him as Shiva. And he would say, "Shiva is the rope that binds us together. Shiva is going to keep us together." And the health had deteriorated, but Swami was always there in the house helping Shiva out. Shiva wouldn't eat if Swami was not present. And then he would, a few minutes later, he would say, "Swami, just walk past, I will eat." And there's so many little incidents that happened. He had a talisman that got lost, and my grandma wrote a letter to Swami and sent it through a messenger then. And Swami comes out of the room with a response to the messenger to the letter saying, "Give this to Parvatama." And that was the talisman that was lost in Chennai.
Wow.
So as time passed, Shiva's health deteriorated, and he passed down. And in his memory, they built a hospital in Chennai. It was called the Ishwara Prasad. It still exists in Chennai, in Adayar. It's the Ishwara Prasad Dattatreya Orthopedic Center. It's a beautiful place for families that need help and assistance with family members affected by polio. It is a medical, surgical, rehab center, and it also provides regular education. My grandparents, very, very saddened at that point, were upset at Swami a little bit. And then as time passed, they realized that their sorrow was a worthy cause. What seemed to be evil at that point, from their limited point of view, turned out to be so important for so many families. So back and forth from Puttaparthi, car ride, stay at home, cooking together, praying together. So many great memories. My grandmother once tells me how they went on a boat ride to the Tungabhadra River, and Swami went in the sand and brought out padukas and said, "Oh, Rama's padukas, I hear Paratama take him." And of course, the lingams. And my mother was just telling me yesterday that they were on a trip to Mahabalipuram, and Swami had materialized Amrutam for all of them on Vaikuntha Ekadasi, and given Amrutam to all of them. So life was going on, Swami's presence. And even when Sundaram was built, Swami was always that child to grandma.
Yeah. So it seems, because I just love the story of, he stayed with your grandparents, Padradhamma and Hanumantra Rao, right? And it's amazing how even when they're not home, he's having food and he's writing a letter to them saying that I haven't brushed my teeth, washed my face, but I'm having my food. So such a young Swami, right? Both of you mentioned just young Swami. He must have been about how old?
In his early 20s.
Yeah. And that's just amazing.
Just a small reflection, I guess, or incident. So my grandfather was the person who gave Swami his driving license, his first driver's license.
That's a nice story, actually. Can you share that story, please?
I think the license was a little slightly premature. And he gave Swami the license saying, it's not how old you are really, but it's how well you drive. And he issued the license to Swami, and then immediately Swami takes them for a car ride, and then my grandfather had to tell him, got to slow down a little bit.
That's amazing. So I think Swami was underage, right? I think you can get license when you're 18, and he was younger than that. And so they gave the license based on his ability to drive and not necessarily the age. But yes, it's funny that Swami had to be told to slow down. That's good. We have a picture that we'll share later as well. So thank you for sharing that. Sister.Rajani, so it's amazing. Both of you actually have a connection to Shirdi Baba with your grandparents, and how Shirdi Baba, in the form of Shirdi Baba, Swami has blessed your grandparents without even realizing that he was Shirdi Sai Baba. I think you have... is that the story that continues on to say where Swami, he disappears, and then he comes in the form of Satya Sai Baba? Would you be able to elaborate on that?
On that first visit, Swami did teach them Manasa Bhajre Guru Charanam, basically hinting something that was to follow later in their life, that every one of us has to surrender all our problems at his lotus feet and let him take control of our lives. So not only did he teach Manasa Bhajre Charanam, he taught my mother and her sisters kritis. These were kritis, compositions in the Carnatic genre of music. And Swami composed several of them, and he taught them a few, and they would continuously sing it. And a link happened later. In the multiple trips they had, Swami gave prominence to Navaratri. And each day he would have something dedicated that day. He celebrated Navaratri, and as you know, today it continues in Puttaparthi with the Purnahuti, and it's a big celebration. So he said that, Navaratri proclaims the power of all the goddesses. And he says one's own mother is a combination of all these divine beings. And so he allowed Navaratri at that time itself to be a big event. Like on the first day, he would unfurl a flag. On a second day, he would do seva with everyone. So they remember making these. There was no pathway to this shanty and open area. So with mud and water, they would build like a pathway. Third day, he would dedicate it to the children, and kids would be singing, acting in plays and singing the songs he taught. Bhajans and Namavalis came much later, but this was all kritis. And so this is how it went on. And meanwhile, there were the families, the South Indian families in New Delhi had a music teacher. He was an AIR graded artist, Chidambaram sir. This music teacher would supplement his income by teaching music, Carnatic genre of music, to the South Indian families who were in New Delhi. And he was not very spiritual, but he loved to talk Vedanta. And after teaching all the students, he would cycle back home, slowly just cycling. And an old person would come and start talking to him. And he just enjoyed the conversation because this person spoke not just Vedantam, but connected all the Carnatic lyrics of Tyagaraja and Shyama Sastri all into the Vedantam and talk about it. And he thoroughly enjoyed his walk home. He started walking beside his bike instead of, riding the bike. And one day, he didn't find this person when he was returning home, but a very, very young person in an orange robe with an afro hair. Imagine seeing such a person in New Delhi at that time, just continued on as if seamlessly from the previous day's discussion. So he was startled. He says, "Who are you? How do you know about this?" So he said, of course, Swami, his mischievous young days, he just said, "Oh, I changed my form, so you forgot me already." And then he said, "That was Shirdi Sai Baba Rupam. This is my current form. I live in Puttaparthi. And you should come and see me." And at the end of the evening, he had talked about where he lives, and then the day ended. And from the following few days, nobody came. So not the Shirdi form, not the Parthi form. And he was there. Music teacher was very, very eager, very restless. So he decided to go. Everyone who he was teaching music to, the parents thought he's gone on his regular trip to South India in June to see his extended family, but he had actually gone to Puttaparthi. He had a very rough time getting there. Robbers robbed him. He landed there with torn clothes, but he was again mesmerized by the young Swami. Swami blessed him and showered him with so much grace, so much love. He would lie down under the stars with Swami. Swami would speak astrology. Again, the same compositions, new compositions he taught him and said, "Teach your students these compositions." And he came back a very different person. And again, the connection of the two Sais. With him also, Swami came as Shirdi Sai Baba and Sati Sai Baba. Some of these kritis you may have heard the students singing, like Sri Ganesha, Shivani Kumara, Pavana Purusha Saisha. There were many, many more which my mother would sing and her sisters would sing, especially during Navratri. And there were Sai Rama, Vina Vina Mana Baba Charitam, Kopala Meturaga Undura, Mohana Murali. There were so many more. Deva Shri Sai Natha Prabhuji. These were all kritis that I grew up hearing, didn't even know it was Swami's compositions. Sometimes would be irked hearing it so many times, and how life changes to, and how you end up valuing something from the past. And they're treasures for me now. And the Namavalis were mostly couplets, small, short songs, which Swami actually had the ladies of Bangalore, I would call them. They started composing it and put it together for Swami. Songs that we hear today, like Shirabdi Shayana and Kasturi Ranga, Kaveri Ranga. There was a Sai Hare, Shri Sai Hare, and Radha Vallabha, Radha Pyare. These were all composed by the ladies who eventually were those who did the Akhand bhajans with when it started in Bangalore. But these are all memories from the early days of Swami and the many blessings. And my grandfather, in his travels, he was a man who never complained even of a headache. He was very healthy, very good person, very helpful person. He suddenly took ill and he passed away. And of course, my grandmother lamented the physical distance between Swami and them. And but she would always say, you know, I'm fortunate to have known him. And then when he passed away, she, even though like for her, every aspect of her living was Swami, she breathed Swami, she spoke Swami. His passing away, she had a question that, you know, how did this God who came never to punish, how did he take away my life support so soon? But the family rallied together with all these kritis and songs taught by Swami. They would sing it every day, and they grew closer, singing together every evening, and that full faith and prayers to Swami to ride them through this difficult time. And my grandmother had these young children who were still going to school, and they all continued and became very successful in life with this deep-rooted faith that she emulated, and they followed as examples. And it's a true example that I loved. I loved my grandmother. She never spoke to me about her grief. These were things my parents later told me after her passing. But she did pray to Swami, and she was rewarded. Swami decided in 1957, primarily through the efforts of the transport in charge in Chennai, again, Sri Hanumantrao Garu. See how he connects us all. Sister Sai Lakshmi's grandfather. He was monumental to bring Swami to New Delhi. And of course, my grandmother was rejoicing that there were very, very few people. Mother Ishwarama also came apparently, and they had very good satsang with Swami. Again, the young, energetic Swami, you know, making them all feel so welcome and happy. And in fact, one thing that I heard later from my parents was that Hanumantrao Garu had said to Swami, oh, because all the devotees said Swami must keep coming to New Delhi, and then he went to Simla, Kashmir and all, and later trips, and of course the Badrinath trip, Kedarnath and all those trips. So Sri Hanumantrao Garu said, why don't we build a railway line from New Delhi all the way to Puttaparthi? So Swami said, no, the mission is not ready. So he said, Puttaparthi is not a picnic spot, it's a pilgrimage spot. So it never happened. So the Delhi devotees had to continue to go through Dharmavaram and then, you know, find various modes of transportation to get to Puttaparthi. So it was very difficult to travel. And again, looking back at how easily we reached Puttaparthi, and still complained about the car ride from Bangalore airport to Puttaparthi. Relatively speaking, they did far more arduous trips to Puttaparthi.
Thank you, Rajani. What a beautiful story. And how, yeah, you're saying how it's all tied together, Sister Sai Lakshmi. What were you thinking as Sister Rajani was sharing that story?
Same thing, right? The games I'm thinking about, the same, how he actually, Sister Rajani is sitting there talking about my grandparent, and we had no idea, right? It's amazing how he works everything together, brings everybody together, and just makes it happen. Just makes it happen.
Yeah. Can you expand on a little bit more stories about your grandparents and Swami? You know, just any other stories that's coming to your mind that you'd like to share?
Yes, I believe one time when he used to stay in the kitchen while grandma cooked and talked about all the ingredients and so on. And one time grandma was making payasam and she tasted it. She was making payasam for Swami, but before she served it to him, she tasted it and she didn't know Swami was in the kitchen, right? He was not there according to her. But then he comes walking in and said, "Hey, Shabri, how is the payasam?"
Oh, yeah.
But he a kind soul. I mean, when we were in even my grandmother, right, giving me the opportunities to be with her, she was so kind to me to let me experience all of the joy that I received. We would go to Sundaram, and then at Sundaram, Swami materialized a yantram. What do they call it? Like a little coin to be placed in the foundation when building Sundaram. And Swami too, like so kindly shows it to her. He comes up to Amuma and he says, grandma, and he says, Parvatama chudu Swami jesanu, which means, Parvatama, look what Swami did. Like a child. And she's seeing so much, right? But yet he would come back to her, running to her, showing her what he did, and he'd say, Papa kuda chupichu, like show it to the little girl also. That, kindness, Swami's kindness is just amazing. I mean, even I had so much joy living in grandma's house when Swami was there. In fact, Swami would say, when I'm here, she's not going to school, Paratama, when I was a little older. But as a young child, I would go on car rides with Swami, I was 5, 6, 7 at that age. I'd be walking around with some candy in my mouth, and Swami would be leaving to go to visit other devotees in Chennai, and the cars would be getting ready, and he'd say, "You want to come?" Because my father was going, so I would jump in the car and go with him and fall asleep, and then my father had to bring me back. Well, I have a funny story to tell you. So Swami had his own bedroom in grandma's house. It was just cleaned and nobody used the room. The room was completely for Swami only. So he would go up to his bedroom at night, and one day my brother and myself decided to prank Swami. So Swami used to carry a little portfolio under his arms. So we and all ready for Swami to come and look for it the next morning. So when Swami comes down and he's looking for his bag, and of course he asks us, "Where is it?" "I don't know." We refused to tell him. We hid it under the steps and we refused to tell him. And he calls out to my grandmother and said, "Parvatama, look at the kids. They're bothering me. They're hiding my belongings." And then as he's saying that, he'll go right underneath the stairs, pull it out and he'll look at us and say, "Parvaledre, it's okay." So, we've so much fun with asking our names. I remember my brother and my cousin, after a darshan at grandma's house, were going back to school, and they were walking to the bus stop. And while they were in the house, Swami said, "What are your names?" And they, of course, I repeated their names, but young boys, right? So they're walking to the bus stop, and they say, "Oh, when Swami asked for the name, we shouldn't have told him. And then we should have waited to see what happens." Right by them, a car comes so close to them and goes, Swami in the car.
Wow. So this is when you were thinking that you shouldn't have, what will happen if you don't tell, right? So this Swami is asking what their name is, and you're being cheeky and saying what will happen if you don't tell him, right? And he heard. Right. That's amazing.
Going back to the Shirdi Baba story, my grandmother was at a vegetable market. She would usually sit in the car and request the vendor to bring her the vegetables of her choice. During one such day, an older gentleman walks up to her and asked her for alms, and she pulled out a dashboard, and whatever she had there, without paying much attention, offers it to the older gentleman. And then later, Swami, when he came to Chennai and stayed at the house, he says, "By the way, Parvatama, I came all the way to Panagal Park and you gave me 10 paisa. 10 paisa is very minimal. change.
Yeah.
So Swami showed his avatars and his presence in many, many different ways, right?
Yeah.
I-
That's amazing. And so, you, because you were blessed to spend time, live in the same, under the same roof with Swami, right? At your grandparents' place. And therefore you have this everyday encounter with him. Whereas Rajani, your experience has been, it's amazing how the connection is the same with Swami for all of us, right? But your path, your way of connecting with Swami has been different, right? So would you be able to expand on the way you connected with Swami?
My first memory of Swami, I was a year old, my parents tell me, but that memory remains. Swami was with Ishwarama Garu, and she was talking to my father. As I said, there were very few people those days. So she was talking and joking, and I was petrified of her. My father was a very tall man. He was standing and talking, and I was holding on to his leg and hiding my face behind it. I have that memory, and of course, my parents confirmed that. Swami, I remember him walking up and also talking, but what I remember more is the light. There was a light. I kept saying there was a light, there was a light. So my parents, what they explained to me was where Swami was seated, when he got up and walked and mingled with the devotees, there was a halo that was left there. And I kept saying light, and that was the halo. So he had started showing his miracles. And he walked to my parents and he was talking, and then he teased my mother. No one knew at that time my mother was expecting. It was in the early stages of her pregnancy. And he said, mother-in-law now wants you to have a son. And so he blessed my mother and said she would have a son, and that's my brother Sai. He materialized, he just swung his arms in the air and materialized heaps of vibhuti, which he put on her and then gave her in her hand. And that was another miracle. And of course, he was called Sai at home. And so along that, after that, Swami's visits, my parents would visit because they became very involved in the mission. My mother was very blessed and graced to have been trained in Balvikas by Swami directly. So she traveled a lot for that. And then I remember her traveling to Kota in Rajasthan. A lot of times my parents could not travel together because we children had started school. And so they would go separately. My father would go as a Sevadal and became a senior Sevadal and a zonal in charge. Did a lot of activities, and the formal Samiti had formed in New Delhi, and there were a lot of organization that took place. One of Swami's very compassionate directives was that nobody should have difficulty in traveling to, it should be like going to a temple in your surroundings. So he divided Delhi into zones, and then within the zones, there were multiple units. And these units were walking distance. Every day there was bhajan in someone's house in the evening. In the daytime, there would be what is called the Mahila, or the ladies' wing would have bhajans or some service activity. Or bhajan learning sessions. So he made it very convenient for everyone. And around that time, there were devotees just sprouted. It became so many, and in so many places, keeping up, going to all these bhajans every evening was an arduous task. Oftentimes, as Sevadals, my parents would go to set up the altars in homes when it was, or if it was a community bhajan. And Swami sent a directive from Parthi that no more. There used to be a mad rush to buy these marigold flower garlands. And if you couldn't find it, people would run around looking for it before their bhajan started. So he said, no flowers and no prasadam. He made it very simple. because there were families who could do that regularly, give large prasadams after bhajans, and there were families who probably had to go through the trouble of coming back from work, preparing the prasadam. So he said, only vibhuti, and no flowers, nothing, just worship my picture, that's it. So these directives are all lessons Swami was telling us. It's the divinity, the teachings, the learnings that were primary, not all the other things that we as devotees wanted to do. Yes, it's okay to do it, but make it simple. Don't make it complicated. So with all this came the service, the community service is what shaped me in the organization as a young child. As a very little child, I would see my parents go out early for service. These were, the Narayan Sevas were not how we know it today. It was done under huge pandals or tents in a common community area. It could be the front of a huge temple where they would erect a pandal, and big furnaces would be brought in for cooking, huge vessels, and they cooked the food fresh and served it in those at those events. And this became a very regular thing. When we were very little, of course, we couldn't do anything. We were delighted to be able to hand water to people, or hand out the, in the paper, there would be plates made out of leaves, and also little cups made, stitched together with leaves. Toothpicks kind of things would hold those together, and we would serve those. As we got older, we were given tasks of helping with peeling potatoes or kneading dough, because you never knew how many people would show up. These were thousands would come to eat. And the poorest of the poor would come and eat. But I remember one occasion where it never ended. It kept on happening. I remember my father had to go to the store and buy more flour, more vegetables, more oil, and many other volunteers did the same thing, and it kept continuing. So my mother said, I noticed, in this big temple, there are the priests, and there's a large extended family who live around the temple. They were coming so many times and carrying food and taking it back and coming back again. It was a big lesson, because on their next trip to Parthi, Swami said, Narayan Seva is feeding a hungry stomach, not a rich or a poor stomach. So the lesson went in very clearly that whenever you feed someone's hungry stomach, it is Narayan Seva. So these were all lessons we grew up learning. And service just was such a big part of my parents' routine, helping anyone who came. There were times when we spent a lot of time with my parents. We had a very informal, loving relationship. My parents were not strict with us, very open-minded. So we would have, lot of games, naughty plays, and, mischiefs, and everything would go on. So sharing that time with everyone and my parents was something which we would complain about. And we would say, why can't you just say that you can't do this? Someone or the other would come and say, can you help? My son is applying for this. Do you know someone? Because it seems that unless you know someone, it's difficult to get the application through. And somewhere my father will dig out from his St. Stephen's College, somebody who he only meets every year for the reunion. And he'll say, yes, I do know someone. Let me see if he can help. And he'll say, it's completely at the qualifications of the candidate, but I just wanted to let him know that I tried my best. And these were the things we surrounded ourselves with and we heard all day. So service to us, I remember in the late 80s when Swami came to Delhi, the crowds had just busted at the seams, and it was literally controlling the crowd was a huge part of the service. not just, and then making makeshift places there. Nobody knew whether Swami would proceed to Punjab. A lot of people had come from Punjab, so makeshift campsites for them to make food and serve them, to make sure that their stay was comfortable. These were all directives by the ever compassionate Swami. And bhajans and Bal Vikas were something my mother was very engaged in, along with the Narayan Seva. And our house used to always have Bal Vikas or SSC classes going on. And an extension of that was starting to teach children in the hutments and where they were not going to school, or some of them were going to school, but how to get Swami's values to them also. So after the day's work at home, my mother would go and start teaching these little children. And they slowly started coming home. And on my multiple visits back home after I came here, it was something that I would also observe. A lot of them, after they grew up and had jobs, they would still come and express their gratitude for the direction that they were taken in. So this service, growing up with Swami, the value of it increased when I was removed from there. When I came here, it was not that everyday interaction or knowing Swami or sitting at bhajans. So that void was very, very, I was very aware of it. So,
Sai-Rajani. So, yes, so your service to Swami, the concept of service, understanding and valuing service actually started while watching your parents, how they served Swami and how they did the community service, right? And back in India. Before we actually go to how you brought that to the US, I just want to tie it to what some of the stories that Sai Lakshmi has related to what you just shared. It reminds me of food. Every time you bring food, I'm thinking, oh, there's a lot of food stories that we need to talk about. So Sai Lakshmi, if I can just step back and just talk about a little bit more about your interactions or observing your grandparents and parents interacting with Swami. There was one time, I think Parvatama, your grandmother, asked how many people are coming so she can cook, right? Can you share that story, please?
Sure. Lot of food again with Swami, right? As a child, before I begin my story, as a child, fearless, right? I would pop onto the dining table chair and I couldn't even reach the table, but I would be on the chair with my knees on the chair and I would eat off Swami's plate.
Can you say that again, please? I want to hear that very carefully.
Right, Prabha. I would sit on the chair next to Swami and eat off his plate, and everybody would glare at me, right? My parents, my grandparents, but you know what? As long as I was getting the nice sugary stuff, it didn't matter to me.
Wow.
And lovingly let me do that. So many little experiences, but so many lessons, right? Now, retrospectively, you look back and say, he was so forgiving. He was ever so forgiving. He didn't reprimand us. He was joyful. I mean, this person that the world looks out for, wants him, right? He was so forgiving, so many pranks, so many mistakes. So one time, Swami was, the same time that the Sundaram, when he did the foundation of Sundaram, that time grandma said, Swami, when will you come home? And he said, whenever you want me to. So he said, can you please come tomorrow? And Swami said, sure, I'll come tomorrow. He said, can you bring all the kids meaning students? And Swami goes, Paratama, you never want just me. You want everybody. You want all the kids also to come. And Amuma said, no, that's okay, Swami. You come. I just want to ask and be prepared for the kids. He said, oh, I'll come. So we were all ready. My mom.
So she thought just Swami's coming then.
Yeah,
right?
we thought Swami is coming. Usually there's a small group that comes with Swami. My mom is in charge of the kitchen. And if I may digress a minute, my parents were very, very content with the darshan of Swami. They're very simple people, very content with. My mom was just happy cooking the meals, serving Swami, then coming for a quick darshan and hosting all the guests and relatives that came for Swami's darshan. My father was the same, just enabling all the transportation. He would stand far away by a gate and get Swami's darshan, even by Nagar Sangeetan. And then when Swami comes to the house, he would say, Duranga nunchuna Swam baga kanapartane Gangadhara, okay? That means even if he's standing far away, Gangadhara can see Swami very, very well.
Wow.
So, in the Nagar Sangeetan, in the crowds of thousands of people, Swami spots my dad and then lets us know that he sees it, he knows it, right? So going back to the Swami's visit, Swami said, I'll come. My mom, of course, is cooking in the kitchen, and Swami's car comes, and followed by Swami's car, there had to be 5 or 6 other cars. And all these kids, I don't know how many kids can fit into a little car. So many students came. And of course, the fear in all of us, right? The food, what are we going to do with the food? That was the biggest concern. So as Swami is stepping into the house, all smiling, like very like he knew what we were all going through at that second, right? So all happy. He comes in. As he's stepping into the house, he says, hey, go tell your mother to add salt in the pulihara. Just he steps out of the car, not even on the veranda. The kitchen is far away from the house. The kitchens are not connected to the main house. Go tell your mother to add pulihara, to add salt in the rice. All right, we do that. And of course, we all walk together by the kitchen. He comes to the kitchen, and Amma had made tindura fry. Tindura is, let's say, okra, just to make it relative. And okra fry, when you cook it, it just condenses. The volume is little, right? And we made enough. She probably made enough for maybe 20, 30 people. And Swami goes and says, hey, pick up that lid. It's not sitting right on that vessel. So I pick up the lid, we put it back. That was the tindura fry. So all these students got seated, blankets were put down, everybody ate a great meal, everybody enjoyed it. There was so much food left that day that we had to do Narayan Seva. And not just the soups or sambars and the rice and the curries, not just that, even the tindura fry, which we had a tiny bit of to begin with. We had Narayan Seva that day. On that, Prabha, if I may, I have an incident from that day as Swami was going back into the kitchen. I remember I was standing beneath the steps, and Swami was talking to me. And at that point, my brother was seeking college admission. And he goes, Prasad's admission raledu kada, which means Prasad did not get the admission, right? And I don't know what to do with myself, right? And thinking back about it now, I look up at Swami and says, not Mahaprasad, Swami, you're probably thinking of another Prasad. Prasad will get the admission. And he looked up and he looked down at me, touched my head, and he said, next year, and it's okay. And of course, my brother did not get the admission into his preferred course of study at that year, but he got it the following year. But, while I was not involved in that admission process, I guess we all prayed as a family, right? And see how gently he got that message back to the family. He's saying, it won't happen, but I'm watching it. I know it. I'm orchestrating it. We'll take care of it. Just gently letting my parents not worry about it. So that was then for my brother. And then I have to say a little bit about my son. My son was also looking into going into a program, and then he applied here in the United States. And Swami comes into my dream and he says, I'm not giving Prashant that program. And I said, why not, Swami? He studied so hard. He's got the grades. He did well. Please, why not? Why aren't you giving it to him? He said, no, it's not good for him. So I'm not going to give it to him. And I'm saying, Swami, Amma is going to be so disappointed too, right? Amma will be happy to see him get that admission. Please, Swami, give it to me in one college. And I won't force him to it. I won't talk about it. Time comes after a long delay. He gets that one envelope to that one course that I thought he would be getting into. Nobody even touched the envelope in the house. Of course, my lips were sealed. I can't say anything. I made a promise to Swami saying, I will not ask him to take that course line or study that course. But my son too preferred not to go into that course, and it was just seamless. But he warned us, he told us. But again, in the dream, I'm arguing with him and saying, give me one. And he said, and I will. And he did. And I promised not to force it. And there it was. And same thing with my daughter as she's going through her coursework, study, and seva opportunities. It's just amazing to see Swami's presence in their lives too. And then always constantly reassuring us as parents or grandparents, always reassuring our parents and ourselves as to that he's always here taking care of the family. When my second brother was ill when he was a child, Swami had given a pendant for him to wear. And of course, he being young had chewed it away. He actually chewed off the pendant. And during Swami's next visit, my mother asked him and said, Swami, the pendant you gave, it's all chewed off. And he said, the work is done. He doesn't need the pendant anymore. My older brother, not too long ago, was going into major surgery. And I was not in the same state, but I knew the time of his surgery. So I was all set, I was sitting on a couch and I decided to spend my time in prayer while he was undergoing the surgery. And sat on the couch, don't know what happened, or do I know what happened now? Fell asleep. And while I'm sleeping on the couch, it was early morning too, like around 8-ish in the morning, fell asleep and visions of Swami. Then all of a sudden I wake up to a text message that I see, and it says, to a text message that I had to read. It was his friend saying the surgery is done, all went well. And then I look at my phone again and thought for the day pops up. Thought for the day, the picture on that thought for the day was a picture from grandma's house.
Yeah.
All days, the picture that Prabha you were showing in one of the slides is a picture that was on that day. Yeah. So, I mean, what else is there to say in understanding and the connecting and the presence and the care, right? Even as I was sick, I remember my mother was telling me that I was very sick as a child, and my mom would cry, relatives would come and want to see me, and then she would be very upset and she would cry. And believe I was 4 years old. I would go up to mom and say, don't worry, Ma, Swami came in the dream. And then when I was hospitalized, I still remember it like it's today. Pitch dark, everybody's asleep. But in those days, in the hospitals, they had mosquito nets. And my siblings had brought a little plastic toy for me. It was like a wand, like a small red wand. This morning, as I was getting ready, the vision was just like coming to me. So I guess I need to say it here. I haven't said it in a long time. At night, on the other side of the mosquito net, Swami is playing with me, with the wand. So that was the same, I was very, very young then. So at the same time, Swami was coming to Chennai, and my grandma wanted mom to bring me home. I was in the hospital on an IV and for Annaprasna. And my mother, very afraid to say no to my grandmother, but at the same time, very hesitant to speak to the doctors and seek permission to relieve me or release me, goes, how am I going to do this? And my grandma says, if you want to bring her, if you have faith, bring her. And she went to see the doctor, and the doctor said, it's your choice. I'm not going to say no. You want to take her, but we are not responsible. But she brought me home. She had me discharged, she brought me home. Came here, Swami materialized Vibhuti, cured. I apparently had a lot of something on my face was going on, some severe allergic reaction. And Swami materialized Vibhuti and put it on my face, and offered Annaprasana the same day. So like you were saying, Prabha, all of my milestones, I'm ever grateful to Swami, were in person, blessed by Swami in person. My grandmother had named me Sai. And when Swami came, she said, Swami, I just named her temporarily. Can you please name her? And he looks at her and smiles and says, and nobody told Swami which day I was born. And because she was born on a Friday, call her Sai Lakshmi.
Yeah. So it's amazing how he always gives signs, both Rajani and Sai Lakshmi. Swami is always there. He gives signs, he gives the voices there, the inner voice, the external experiences. We realize that Swami is there with us. But Sai Lakshmi, you're also a little bit naughty. Okay. Oh. A little bit is a bit of a small word. But, Swami would, because you had that relationship with Swami that it was, yes, he's Swami, yes, he's God, but that playful relationship that with Swami, which he always accepted from you and always knew and allowed you to be who you are. I think one time Swami asked you to do Arati or sing Arati, right? Can you share that story? And there are a couple more stories that I would like to you to share with us. But yeah, please start with that.
Yes, I was naughty, and I'm not. I haven't changed with my conversations with Swami, and I've always wanted to grow up. Always wanted to grow up in my relationship to Swami, but I don't know when that time is going to come around. But one time, since Grandma was weak on her feet, she said to me, she had let me do the Harati for Swami. And while we were giving the Harati, Swami says, sing. And I go, no, I'm not going to sing. And I'm yet to sing Harati.
and then Swami allowed that. That's okay. That's okay. You don't have to sing. And actually, there's a message in it here, right? I think you mentioned it too earlier when we had a chat beforehand, that Vedam, chanting, singing, that's good for some people, but it doesn't have to be the only way, right? And I think can you expand on that? Actually, you shared that really well when we were talking earlier. That you don't really, and Rajani, you also mentioned too, Swami did chant the Vedanta when he was young, and he taught it, and people picked up on it. But Sai Lakshmi, you were one of those people who really didn't, and that's okay, right? Yeah.
He accepts us, right? He accepts us for who we are, as long as we are sincere about it, and we do it for right action, for the right purpose, action. Why are we doing a certain deed is important. One such incident was Swami, we finished our darshan in Sundaram, we were home. Grandma was sitting at the front porch. Her feet were tired, so she was having it massaged. She was relaxing, soaking in some sun in the veranda. And then there's a honk at the gate. And Swami's car just drives in. And we're rushing, right? We're rushing. And Grandma was very, very insistent at how she wanted Swami. She would tell us, pick that rose tomorrow for Swami. Offer these flowers in this room, this color on this room. And she was very particular, and we followed instructions. She was very clear about what she wanted. So I knew Swami's arrival, we need a flower. We had no fresh flowers sitting in the house already. So Swami's car came in. I quickly rushed out, went to a rose plant and tried to cut a flower. I couldn't do it. So what did I do? I bit it. I bit the stem and just wiped it off on my little dress. Quickly rushed and came up ready for Swami, and offered it to Swami. Swami looks at the rose and he goes, Parvaledale. And he gives it back to me, and then blesses me. I
And he
mean,
said, it's okay, right?
it's okay. Parvaledile, it's okay. But what is that lesson, right? You know, then it was fun. It was until about a few years ago, it was just fun. It was just nice to share these stories. But as time goes on, you reflect on them. What was that lesson? The moment, the action at that point was sincere, right? Following instructions, giving Swami a flower. But see how well he accepted it? He didn't even have to touch it. Swami could have just done that. But he took it. He took it, looked at it, gave it back to me and said, it's okay. Right? That acceptance, that forgiveness, those are lessons that I try to take back into my everyday life at home and at work. One small story is I was serving SAIMA upma to Swami, and SAIMA upma has a lot of, Grandma had a lot of cashews in it, right? So she had me serve Swami, and I'm serving Swami. And of course, I'm picking out just all the cashews, because cashews to my young eyes are a delicacy, right? That's all I know about cashews. They're very tasty, and it's desirable to eat. So I'm serving Swami cashews. Swami looks up to me and says, "Upma pertava?" Like serve upma, not just cashews, right? So I take a small lesson, right? So when you do service, don't just give what you have or you think they need. Find out what they need. They need. So the other day, we were collecting some food cans, and they said, "Oh, bring whatever food cans. You can check your pantry and just bring all the old containers that you're not using, packaged food, to donate locally at work." And I said, "Don't do that. You can give them, but you also have to give what the person who'd be receiving them needs. You got to give them what they need, not what you have or you think. Think about what you're giving and do that action very mindfully."
Yeah, thank you, Sai
Another
Lakshmi.
funny story.
Those are beautiful stories.
Yes. So once I walk into Sundaram, again, my grandma is weak on her feet. So I hold her with one hand. We carried a seat then. It was called a moda. So moda is like a cane bench, which is hollow inside. So usually we take our chapels out. And then I carry the moda, I hold grandma, and we walk into Sundaram. That particular day, I forgot to take my chapels.
Chapels is shoes, right? Slippers, yes.
Sorry, chapels, my slippers. I forgot to take them off. And I don't want to let go of my slippers either. They're my slippers, right? But then I'm walking into Sundaram. So Swami had us walk into his interview room every day so she could rest there. So I still don't want to let go of my slippers. So what do? I put them in the moda, and carefully, once in the interview room, I carefully put the moda down with my slippers underneath. Like a good girl, I sit on the floor, grandma sitting on the moda. Everything is nice and quiet and slightly stressed, but not agonizing too much over the slippers, slightly stressed though. And then we have several people coming to the interview room. Everybody is seating, and one couple walks in and they're looking around, and it goes, "Swami, where do we sit?" He said, "You can sit anywhere. You can even sit here with your slippers on." And who knew that? Who knew that? Only at that moment, only Swami and I knew about those slippers.
Yeah.
How kindly he forgave me for that. How kindly. If he had even said, "Why did you bring slippers?" or anything, it would have been, the whole day would have been ruined, right? And my grandmother would have probably never taken me back to Sundaram again. But forgiveness, if he forgives us, who are we to judge and penalize anyone?
Yeah, it's the intention, right? The purity in which you're doing this. It's not like you are doing it on purpose. And so he understands. It's funny though how our fellow family human beings, we tend to reprimand, and we have certain expectations of how things should be done, which is fair, which is true. But when we make what we perceive as mistakes, Swami is the only one who knows. And it's okay.
Yes.
It's
yeah,
okay.
Yes.
Yeah. Sister Rajani, I'm kind of talking of food again. Was it Anil Kumar's story with being able to eat? Can you kind of share that story?
Yeah.
That was quite funny.
Yeah. A lovely story of Swami's compassion, Sister Sai Lakshmi. Yes, that story was, somewhere Swami was visiting someone, and they had served puris, and Swami asked that person, open up that puri. And when he did, there was a ring there for him. And so, and of course, he was very happy and thanked Swami. So they had to get to another place, and Swami walked up to Professor Anil Kumar, who was still eating the lunch that the family had served. And he said, hurry up, we have to go. So Professor Anil Kumar, in his joking, jovial way, said, Swami, I'm checking every puri. Who knows what you've put in which puri and for whom? So another sweet example of Swami's humor.
Yeah, yeah. That's wonderful. So I do want to we have some beautiful pictures that, photographs that your family members cherished or took. And we'd like to kind of share that and kind of narrate some of the stories as we go along. And so I just wanted to share these stories, share these pictures. So this one, Rajani, can you kind of describe these pictures for us?
Yes, the first picture was from way back in 1941 when my grandparents first met Swami. That is him eating a mango. And in subsequent visits to Patti, this is when my parents went to Patti. This is one of the pictures which you see on the right side, is a picture of the current mandir, but one of the older altars. That time, the altar picture, and Swami had given them this. He had given an older picture even before, which was a hue of, it was like a sepia tone type of a reddish one, which also we had in our altar in our home in Delhi. And this is another picture that Swami had given, how the altar used to look at that time.
So this is the old altar at the current
at the current mandir, yes.
Yeah.
One of it's changed many times, and this is one. And this is Balvika's play that was put up in Delhi for Swami's visit, and it's a picture with all the children. And my sister was in that play, and you can see her there. Few memories. This was a 1972 visit. Those were days when Swami would allow to be garlanded, and you can see on that someone's approaching with a garland. And in the back was there was a Sevadal camp and also the singers enclosure. So way back, there's a volunteer who's standing. If you go look inside the area, and on her left, you can see my mother sitting. These were all the singers who were lead singers who were sitting in the enclosure.
I love this picture, Swami sitting on a horse.
Yes, this was when I had mentioned Swami with all the prayers and his compassion showered on the people in North India, and he made his trip to New Delhi, and he went to Kashmir at that time. I particularly envy the lady all the way on the right. I do ride horses, so I envy that lady all the way on the right who was able to be on a horse with Swami. Of course, way before my time to do that, but
yeah, wonderful.
Nice memory.
Yes.
These are pictures my parents had. As I had said earlier, there were two things that fast-tracked thinking of others. You know, growing up as a child and doing service was one thing. You did it, you enjoyed it, you were not responsible for anything, you just had fun. But fast-tracking to thinking about others before oneself, two things fast-tracked that for me. One is coming to this country, and of course, the second one is after marriage, and we lived in a larger joint family here. And so when I was removed from the Sai environment, that's when the void was so visible. Forgetting constantly that, I really miss Swami, the interactions of bhajans and everything. But my in-laws would go to the Ganesh temple in Flushing. And my father later told us how he would pray to Swami and say, take care of her. She's all alone and she's so far away. And this will make some people smile, but my connection back to Swami was initiated at the bhajans that were going on in the Flushing Sai Center in the Ganesh temple. And we lived in New Jersey, but we would visit there every weekend. And that's when we found out about the bhajans that were going on. So always be ready for him, because it is his orchestration. We think that we are the doers, but we delay accepting that he's always with us. And I was no exception in that. So my in-laws were not Swami devotees. They were Shirdi Baba devotees. And it's just patience, as Swami says, keep your faith, keep your patience. And today, everyone is in my direct in-laws family. They're all Swami's devotees, very, very involved in Sai centers, wherever they are. My sister-in-law is in Dallas, and she's a very big part of Swami Center there. So he connects us all back. So this picture in Africa, Swami made his one trip out of the country, which was to Africa. And though my father-in-law was not a devotee, he was on a UN deputation to Africa. So he had a camera, he had a movie film, he had slide projectors. So many, many pictures that he took. And these are the few pictures. The first one is at the airport. And the other one was Swami mingling with the crowd that had gathered there.
Oh, how beautiful, how beautiful. Thank you for sharing. And then going on to Sai Lakshmi, you also have a couple of pictures, well, quite a few pictures, but they have kind of tell a few stories. Would you be able to share what these pictures are about?
These were for the housewarming puja, what they call the Guru Pravesam. So Swami is, my grandparents in the background, Swami is taking a step into the house, lighting the lamp at the puja, and then making the prasad to be offered to everyone. See him in the kitchen here. And my grandparents.
And this is Parvatama. Swami used to call her Parvatama, right? Parvatama. And how did he call your grandfather?
Hanmantra. And offering Harati. That's their prayer room.
And look at Swami, he's just so relaxed. I just love that.
All the kids wonderful. In the background, yeah.
And then this is some more pictures of your grandfather with Swami, just
yes,
relaxing, chilling, I guess. It's just wonderful. It's just wonderful to see how now, when Swami comes, or at least in the later pictures, when Swami comes at Prashanti Mandir, and it's quite formal, right? So here it's very informal and just part of the family member. So it's just wonderful to see.
Mm-hmm.
And what about this one?
That's also my grandfather there sitting around and having lunch. I remember that.
You remember this moment?
No, I don't remember.
Your grandfather's young.
Look at his coffee cup.
Yeah, look at him. Yeah.
That's my grandfather who's in the center of the picture facing us.
This one.
Yes.
Yeah. There you go. And then I think I know who this is.
The naughty girl. Yes, that's the Gindi temple. Grandmother, myself, and Swami Parvatama's daughter-in-law and her children, actually, the two little children. Parvatama here being Swami's sister.
Yeah.
Swami with the other devotees. This is at home. This is one of my favorite pictures. Swami, the garland on the floor and just enjoying bhajans and relaxing in the house.
And these are some pictures that we actually use in our SAIMA program. But these are just some pictures of Swami taken at your home.
Yes.
Yeah. And then this is the son who had polio, right? Ishwar Prasad.
This is the opening of the hospital.
Yes.
So
yes, named after the son.
yes. We call him Shiva. It's Ishwara Prasad Dattatreya Orthopedic Center. So that's my father. My uncle is also there in the picture with my grandfather on the side, and my grandmother.
Yeah.
No. And then my mother is in the center there with the previous picture.
Yes, this is your mother. Oh, pictures that moved a little, but this is your mother.
Yes. And
How about this one?
children in the hospitals. Swami later, when he was building the hospitals in Patti and Whitefield, often said that he has a hospital in Chennai. Hanumanta Rao and I built a hospital in Chennai. Swami was always visited the hospital when he came to Chennai.
Yeah. Nice.
Yes. Then he's driving away, right?
Yeah. So we heard your story about Swami getting his license when he was younger than his age requirement. But he was a good driver, so he deserved the license. We wouldn't expect anything else from Swami. And then this is the Shruti Baba temple
In Guinea.
Indies.
Lots of beautiful stories at the Gindi temple with Leela Magaru.
Yeah.
Swami on a boat ride, sunglasses and all.
Yeah, so there's Swami, and then
The grandfather next to him.
right.
And on the right hand side, you will see my grandmother, my aunts, and a couple of other grandparents there. Yeah. So this was a ride, my mother says, was to the river Tungabhadra. And this was when Swami on the sand picked up the padukas and called them Rama's padukas, and he gave them to my grandparents. The second picture is my grandmother, and then my grandfather with Swami.
Yeah. Such beautiful pictures. And then this is the final picture. So yeah, please share this one.
So I had in this country, when I was here, I made this picture and I brought it to Swami in Patti and offered it to him.
Yeah. So Sis.Rajani and Sai Lakshmi, thank you for sharing those pictures, those personal pictures. They just have so much connection to both of you. So thank you for sharing that. Now I just do want to go back to service, right? Both of you are very, very service oriented, both in the Sai Center, Sai organization, as well as outside. So Swami does service through the two of you as his instrument in connecting everybody. So 1 second, I think I can hear echo. Sairam? Okay, so I know both of your love for service actually stemmed from witnessing how your parents interacted and how they conducted their lives. And I think that's a strong message that we whoever's watching can also have, is that when your parents and your environment and your conditioning, the conditions around you is full of service, it rubs off on us. And I think Sai centers have that that plays that role quite a bit for our younger generation, as well as parents too. So your journey with service started back in India, and then you came to the US. And of course, it's very hard to be after being in the presence of Swami and just being immersed in that environment, to come away and then to kind of resettle. Rajani, you kind of touched up on that, how the Blushing Sai Center and that bhajan there was instrumental in connecting you to Swami again, although you were distant physically from India. And then you also continued on to expand your love for service that was instilled in you by your parents and, of course, Swami. Can you share some of those stories of how some service activities, service projects that you do both at work and elsewhere?
Thank you, Sister Prabha. Doing service earlier was just, just go and do service. Like I said, as a youngster doing it, just enjoyed doing it. It was just a part of life. But once I started as an adult to serve, there were so many concepts in service. You thought, okay, I went to Narayan Seva, I cooked and I fed so many people. Deep satisfaction. Swami says, you're not serving the person you're serving. You're not even serving yourself, actually. But in that process, you learn more about yourself. And that guidance was there, which slowly transmuted into how to make it selfless service. You serve in a joint family, you are serving everybody at home. It is not selfless service, it's more of a duty. You're serving an elderly person in the family, you're serving your in-laws. Again, it becomes a duty. And of course, duty with love is what Swami instills. But the transformation that happens, it happens when you wake up and are filled with gratitude. Gratitude, that attitude of gratitude is so simple. And the reason it teaches it's important is because it's not just enough to have gratitude, but gratitude with humility. And that ego is so subtle, it'll come up and it'll say, oh, you feel very good, you did service. You feel very good that today I got this opportunity to go and cook. But the humility aspect of it was the transformation that I feel through time that had to occur, and it's so important and a long way still to go. He says, humility, Swami says, feeds the gratitude. And once the humility feeds the gratitude, then you're able to remove yourself from yourself. Like, we're always focused on, I did this, and I is a part of us. You cannot change that. But to withdraw the senses and to completely surrender to him and say that he's the doer was the huge practice that one has to go through. And of course, it's something that grew slowly in me. And as I say, it continues as I continue down this path. Swami threw a lot of opportunities, not just within the Sai group, where we have soup kitchens. We used to have, earlier our center used to have 2 nursing homes, which were state-run nursing homes, which ran out of funding and had to close. Again, lessons, people we were getting attached to in those nursing homes. And then one day suddenly to find that they have been scattered into different nursing homes. So remove that attachment and pray for them that wherever they are being served and they're getting that love that we were trying to bring them. They used to look forward to our visits. And at work, I'm very fortunate to work in a company where there's a lot of community service, a lot of service associated with diversity and inclusion. And every opportunity I felt that Swami sent it my way. You may feel like, oh, this is another time-consuming event, but the encouragement that I find at work to put that time aside and do it just continuously gave me opportunities in mentoring, especially during COVID. Mentoring online became very big for children whose parents had to go to work because of the kind of work they did, and the children were home. So schooling from home was happening, but who was watching whether those kids are really in those classes? And through certain programs, we were able to reach them enough to make it fun to do homework. Try to see, not every time that you went into the Zoom call would the children dial in. Again, the parents are at work and they don't even know that this is happening. And the child can say anything, but making it fun through games. One of the teaching mechanisms my mother was very big in using in Bal Vikas was the games. She would draw in huge boards, cardboard, large cardboards. She was not a very big lady. She was 5'2", but she would draw on all of them and make games out of them. Some of those games are still with me. Snakes and ladders, various ways. And it kind of encouraged me to also teach through games. Way back, I have done Jeopardy, Sai Jeopardy, and Wheel of Fortune, Sai Wheel of Fortune. So there is a reason why all those things happen, because I was able to use it during that mentorship. And once it became a game and not homework, we found that the children were willing to join those Zoom lessons. And so encouragement from Swami to find ways and look within to find ways and find time to do the service became a big part and still is. Another opportunity I got was there was a big need at that time where we were living. We have moved since. There was a need for response team members for domestic violence. So I got the opportunity to certify myself, and it's the awareness that of what goes on, and the fact that Swami cares enough to have created this situation where I could be of use. I've been involved for over 12 years with 3 different police stations, and it humbles you. It humbles you and reminds you how fortunate one is. And it was no different for me. When you see the desperation, the difficulties, the situations that people are locked in and are unable to come out of those relationships, and so many layers of that bind them to a very abusive situation. It doesn't have to be physical. It can be emotional, psychological, financial, especially with the senior citizen community. It's very easily a psychological and financial kind of abuse. But I am humbled and very, very grateful to Swami to continuously send me these opportunities to serve, because it just builds that unconditional love within. It creates that self-confidence. Many a time I would lack that self-confidence when you are especially in a room with someone who has to be nurtured through that response team, whether you're doing the right thing or saying the right things. And it was always Swami who made it okay. Often in the middle of the night, these calls come generally in the dead of night. And finding that bliss within oneself, that is the like not being tempted by one success or one incident of service, but to continuously seek for these opportunities and selflessly try to make a difference, leave a place better than you found it. It's totally His grace and blessings.
Yeah. Sairam, thank you for sharing that. So it's almost like when you're younger, same for Sai Lakshmi as well. When you're younger, Swami is nurturing you, guiding you until your time to serve, and you have all that courage for that comes from within, that Swami is there giving you the opportunity and then using you as an instrument to be part of that. So along that note, Sai Lakshmi, you are so blessed to be part of a library. And so much goes on there. Can you share your service journey, please?
Yes. I think my service journey started with my grandparents at the hospital when she would visit, since I stayed with her a lot. When she would visit the hospital, my playground was the playground with polio children on crutches and wheelchairs, and we would play in the sand with them, and their love for my grandparents. All of these were great influences, right? The satisfaction of service. You saw how happy my grandmother was when the children came running to her, and the joy when we paid any attention to the children. That was immense, right? So lessons right from the beginning. Swami had provided so many opportunities, and then taught you the value of service throughout. My mother, since we lived in a city, we've always had families over, either for healthcare reasons or education reasons. I always tell my mother, you gave birth to 3 children, but you always have a half a dozen at home at least. My father, just like Sister Rajani was saying earlier, was there for the community. He was a big shoulder for the community, and always wanting to help other people. And opportunities just came, and the solutions also came, right, with them. Swami gave you an opportunity to serve, and then also offered you the help to assist whoever you are to the process. So that was, I mean, also, Prabha, if you think about it, I got closer to Swami through helping someone. That help being my grandmother. I being the only daughter in the house, and since my grandmother was very weak on her feet, I was the one who was chosen to be with her. And being with her is how I got my time with Swami. So if I didn't help my grandmother, I wouldn't have been there. I missed school, if you want to call that sacrifice, call it. But that's how I got to Swami, right? That's how today we are able to sit and talk and reflect back about your experiences with Swami. That tiny bit of sacrifice, if you want to call it sacrifice, the way I say it is, you give a little, you get a lot more. That's what I called it sacrifice. So later, after my grandmother passed, I joined Sevada. Totally different. Now I'm a girl who, with my grandmother, walked straight into the interview hall. One time Swami had said, Paratama doesn't walk into Sundaram, she drives into Sundaram. So she actually got off the car where Swami would get off the car. Through the crowds, the car would go right in front of the interview room. We would get off and go right into the interview room. From that, after my grandmother passed, I signed up as a Sevada. So many beautiful opportunities, so different from what I've had until then, you know. And we used to go to the slums, and we built homes for the slums. We built mud homes and those who didn't have stoves, who lived in huts. We built, they call them smokeless chulas. We built the huts for them, and we helped young mothers with their nutrition. So we would have to get them some nutrition powder, prepare them. We were taught the value of nutrition, and then we reinforced it back in the slums. And we tutored the children in the slums. We would go there every Sunday before bhajan at Sundaram. We would go in the morning, and we would spend the entire morning and afternoon until bhajan time at the slums, right next to Sundaram, very close to Sundaram rather. And then our Sevadal coordinator would say, good bank accounts, since we spend the time on service. So I move into the country, and then the job I get paid to do service. It becomes my daily vocation. To me, that's an immense blessing. Like, I love doing that. You've taught me how to do that, and then you give me a job to do that. And everybody is content, right? No complaints about Sai is out doing service, not doing anything else, nothing. He just orchestrated it so beautifully that every day of my life is working and helping others. I do work at the library, public library, beautiful opportunities. I sit in my office and I say, I wish we had this program. 3 days later, there'll be a volunteer coming. I just retired. Can you utilize my time? I would like to conduct this program at the library. I'm saying, didn't I just think about it? And there it is. I write grants. We're so blessed. We get all the grants to do all Greek classes at the library. So many of our sisters and brothers have availed of those classes at the library. You usually donate books to the library, right, Prabha? People donate books to the library. Sometimes they bring stationery to the library.
So yeah, so if I want to donate something, I would think of books, right? Oh, I have books at home. Where can I give it? I donate it to the library. That's what you do, right?
Maybe some stationery too, right? Children have access to stationery or don't use it, so you bring it to the library. At the North Bergen Library, we get donation of rice. Have you ever heard of anybody donating rice to the library? We got 7,000 bags of ready-to-cook rice packets. And those rice packets went to serve all of our Narayan Sevas in our area. But look how he provides. And then a couple of years later, we got a donation of clothing. So much clothing, men's, women's clothing, children, adults. We distributed them on the sidewalks of the library. And then we had an organization called Two Sisters who actually gather food from supermarkets that are close to expiration date, not expired. And then they offered them at the library parking lot. Lines, miles and miles, we gave away food at the library. So opportunities at the library are just immense. We need to think about it, and it happens. While I call every day a miracle at the library, my community calls it a temple. I don't think there's a better way to describe the work and we do and the satisfaction the community receives, right? We hosted through the region, we hosted the Human Values Festival at the library. And all of us Sai sisters and brothers put so much effort into it. A large team were coming in to the library and organizing this event. And I'm a nervous wreck, right? I say, if I have a magic show, I'll have about 300 people maybe. But how am I going to bring families and children in, telling them that we have a program on right action, peace, love, to Saturday morning? A little nervous. And then I pray, I say, Swami, please, Swami, all of the organization is working so hard. Please make this a success. Prabha, I have to say, it was one of the most beautiful and well-attended events at the library. At one point, I looked up at the stairs and I said, Swami, enough. There's not room for one more person in this building. Please stop, Swami. Enough. 597 people. Been at the library 32 years, never had that many people attend a program on any day, even on a Saturday afternoon. So, and then we go upstairs and there's delivery of pizza. And I'm saying, pizza? Somebody calls out and say, Mrs. Rao, your pizza delivery. I say, pizza? I don't order pizza. So much pizza. And offered a receipt. There was a receipt saying Sai Rao, but I didn't pay for it. I didn't order it, but it came to the venue and all of us enjoyed it. Whose hands were they? Right? I get no greater joy than helping, love all and serve all is my favorite motto. We really think, some of us think, or I think, when we do service, we're helping others. It's helping myself. It's helping. The joy it gives is immense. It's much more than what I do. You serve. You're serving yourself. You're serving the God in others. It's just a beautiful circle. I think COVID taught us one beautiful lesson. You're only as healthy or as good as your neighbor is. If you keep the person next to you healthy, you have chances of being healthy too. Yeah. So if you keep the person next to you happy and content, there are chances that we'll be happy and content too.
Yeah, that statement is actually quite deep. Not just service. I mean, service, yes, but interaction with others. Making sure that our connection, the way we communicate, the way we essentially interact with each other, that happy, love, peaceful interactions, it keeps us healthy as well, right? So it's not just service in terms of food and providing goods, but it's also internal connection as well. So yeah, you both, I mean, I'm actually speechless when just hearing how Swami is using the two of you to be his utmost, the best instrument he can to do service. And he instilled it in you, the value of service, and then now he's providing and guiding and giving you the resources as well, so that you can just be the hands that's actually doing the work, but it's really him who's the ultimate doer. And so it's just a beautiful, beautiful lessons all around. And I think each one of us listening here will also be able to relate with what you're saying. I mean, whatever job we are doing, even if you're not physically working outside, taking care of our home, the service that we do is an opportunity that he has given us with the right attitude and intentions, the pure heart. Even if you bite the rose and give it to Swami, he will accept it. Right? So with the purest of heart, if we just conduct our service, he will take care of the rest of the outcome as well. So we are coming to the close to the end. I wanted to ask if there's anything that you would like to share that we may have missed, any nice stories or concluding statements that will, wrap up our program today.
I remembered something that Swami had said, which my grandmother shared, which was, he said, soon you'll all be collecting in small groups and talking about the many stories, the many experiences you have. He used to say, Anubhavam penchukondi, panchukondi. Anubhavam is knowledge gained from personal experience. Penchukondi is, how to put it, it's like, he said, increase that knowledge from that experience. So keep increasing that experience knowledge and share it with love with everyone. And this journey is forever until that Atma leaves the body. And what better way to remember it than Manasa Bhajare Guru Charanam, his first bhajan. And we all have to go on this journey and prepare for that final merging into the ocean, we as the rivers, and life is running by. So, constant Namasmarana, Swami talks about Namasmarana. Sometimes it's very hard to all the time be chanting his name. You're working, you're busy with work, but you can always contemplate, even with your work, contemplate and think of him, reflect on his teachings, and then practice them. And you'll fail, you'll come back, you'll repent, and that's what he wants. He wants you to grow. And leaving everything in his hands, because when you do, you will see his hand in everything. So at the end of the day, it's about the body is only a chariot, and we're always letting our sense lead it, our mind lead our senses, and the mind is actually should be overruled, like the Ganesha principle that Swami talks about, that the intellect has to come into play. Very much like how our parents would say, for anything before you react or answer, count till 10. And it's a lot like that. If you just let the intellect take over, and then the mind, it's like the chariot and the reins are the senses, just running away. The reins is the mind, sorry. And the horses are the senses, and you're just running away down the road, letting the mind lead, but you have to let the intellect lead. So in so many ways, he gives us a barometer to measure our progress, and we fail, we grow back, and so on. So to me, this journey continues, and I'm so grateful to everyone who I've come across in this life's journey, because every interaction has taught me something. Every interaction has helped me grow. And like Swami says, there's nothing good or bad. Even when my grandfather passed away, he said to my grandmother, make your heart a Vaikuntha, whereas there's no shadow of grief. So there is no bad. Everything is good for God. So God sees everything as good. So it's just a stepping stone for us to make it into a milestone. So, and he sums it so beautifully when he says, forget the bad that anyone has done to you and forget the good you've done for others. So when you constantly remember that, every service is nothing in this vast ocean of life. There is so much more to do. And in gratitude and thank you to you, Sister Prabha, Sister Sai Lakshmi, and all the organizers for inviting me here. I wish to say that it is we're all one family learning to grow with him. And as Swami has said through his own, Swami said through the poet Robert Frost, I have miles to go before I sleep, and hope I keep growing in this mission. Sai Ram.
Sai Rajani, thank you so much for that beautiful way of concluding our talk today, our satsang today. Sai Lakshmi, what would you like to conclude with?
So well said, Sister Rajani, and I echo a lot of your sentiments and thoughts. Thank you. I'm ever grateful to Swami and for him putting me where I am today with all of you. So I'm grateful and thankful to all of you too. Growing up, I was ignorant of his presence. I did not know that I was playing with the Almighty, nor did I know that I was serving the giver. I did not know that I was looking into divine healing eyes. I did not know I was touching the hands of God. Sai Ram.
I actually have, yeah. Sai Ram, thank you. Okay, I'm crying now. Sai Ram is Sister Sai Lakshmi, Sister Rajani. Thank you for your time with us, and thank you for your sharing your deep connections to Swami with us. So let's conclude now with a few announcements. Next slide, please. Yes. So every Thursday, Region 2 hosts Gayatri chanting for peace, love, and harmony from 9 to 9:15 p.m. So the dial-in number is 701-802-5145, and the access code is 380-9510 pound. This slide will be presented at the end as well. So if you'd like to take notes, you can do that later as well. Region 2 and even nationally, we provide Sai Care support. Sai Care is a free and confidential helpline to assist all of our Sai brothers and sisters in need. We assist many areas of need, including elder care, technology, emotional support, medical guidance, amongst many, many, many others. So in order to access Sai Cares, please, you may either visit www.saicares.org. There's no password anymore. Phone number, or you can call, which is dial Sai, which is 857-342-5724, or you can email help@saicares.org. Jai Sai Ram, everybody, and thank you for joining us today.
Om Jai Jagadish Hare Swami Satya Sai Hare Bhakta Jana Sangarshaka Bhakta Jana Sangarshaka Bhakti Maheshwara Om Jai Jagadish Hare Shashivadana Shikara Sarva Pranapate Swami Sarva Pranapate Ashita Kalpalatika Ashita Kalpalatika Aparpashnava Om Jai Jagadish Hare Mata Pita Guru Devamu Mariyam Tayunive Swami Mariyam Tayunive Jnana Brahma Jagannatha Jnana Brahma Jagannatha Nagendra Shayana Om Jai Jagadish Hare Sai Mahadeva, Satya Sai Mahadeva, Mangala Arati Amruko, Mangala Arati Amruko, Mangala Girinari, Om Jai Jagadish Hare. Narayana Narayana Om Satya Narayana 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 Om Narayana Narayana Om Satya Narayana Narayana Om Sai Narayana Narayana Sukhino bhavantu, samastaloka sukhino bhavantu, samastaloka sukhino bhavantu. Om Shanti Shanti Shanti. Peace, peace, peace. Peace on earth. Peace, peace, peace. For all the universe. For all the universe.
जय बोलो भगवान श्री सत्य साई बाबा जी